it's one of those deals where when you look at the schedule coming up, you're facing Cincinnati, team you're tied with in the standings. And then here come the Cubs, a team you're trailing in the standings. And then you go on a road trip that features Cleveland, which I think is a really good team.
Yep.
Pittsburgh is a team, and you play them in their ballpark, they could be a handful. And then you go back to Chicago against the Cubs. So there's no situations where you can't end up getting swept yourself. So you have to make hay now against teams like Chicago.
Let's as we kind of look back at last night's game, lineup construction was a big thing that I think we were all looking forward to, but I want to focus on who we saw behind the plate in last night's game. That was Pedro Pages. For most of the season, since once Ivan Herrera went on the IL, you saw Joel Pozo catching Matthew Liberatore, I believe, in all but one start this season. Since he got hurt. Pedro Pages was the first two, and then Pedro Pages was started for him a few starts ago. And Stefan and I were talking about it yesterday. Matthew Liberatore's ERA with Joel Pozo behind the plate, and in a much different sample size, was a run and a half more with Pozo behind the plate than what we saw out of Matthew Liberatore throwing to Pedro Pages. And how much stock do you put into something like that?
I put a lot of stock into it. Some guys just have a feel for the game, a feel for that pitcher and what he has working for him. And I know that when Pedro has worked with Matthew in the past, they have a pretty good connection. And I just really felt like you wanted to get off on the right foot with the series. And while Pozo has caught him, just like you see Herrera catching Palante, you know what, man, you got to go for the win. And while it may be something that you'd like to do more of, Pages gives you a better chance defensively behind the plate than the other two. And I think that they wanted to really bear down and get Liberatore off to a good start. And he turned in a really good effort last night. But, right now, hey, listen, the hardest thing that Ali and his staff have to deal with is trying to find at-bats for Gorman and Pozo and people of that nature who come off the bench. At some point, Walker and Burleson are in that conversation as well. I don't really think Barrera is a guy that you're really trying to get at bats for. He's a guy that's going to play on Thursday and Sunday. And hopefully he can find a way to stay sharp. But, that's not a pressing need right now.
No, it really is a 25-man roster at this point. Barrero is, if he's starting, somebody's hurt, I think, at this point.
If he's starting, you're playing an 8-inning game because you don't know if he's going to get on base. Defensively, he's got a good arm. He can be a little erratic from time to time. He can play a couple of different positions. And that's where he's going to make his money at because offensively, he just isn't there. And, it's hard for a guy who's a young player to try and figure out how can I take advantage of 3 at-bats a week.
Yeah.
It's hard.
Looking deeper into the Pages Liberatore thing, when you mentioned, you have to find at bats for Gorman, you have to find at bats now. With Lars Nootbaar falling to 7th in the lineup, that might make him less of a priority to start every day. When you kind of look at the other options you have, Burleson continues to hit, Jordan Walker on a 4-game hitting streak right now, Gorman hitting, so Donovan can play the outfield. I think in the grand scheme of things, it does kind of force Ali to start looking at Ivan Herrera back behind the plate, maybe a little more than the Cardinals are comfortable with at this point.
Good point. I just don't know if they're at that point yet where they put him behind the plate. I think that the trade-off, and when we start moving people around, Donovan's a better second baseman than he is left fielder. That doesn't mean he can't play it. But I think, for a team that has a lot of pitchers who put the ball in play, you got to have your best defensive players out there. And right now, I don't know how much better Donovan is than Nootbaar because Donovan might be better because Nootbaar has a tough time throwing sometimes. And, it's one of the tough situations that you have trying to find at bats. And maybe it comes down to matchup situations, a ground ball pitcher compared to a fly ball pitcher, what he's done in the past. And one of the other things about it, when you look at a guy like Gorman, he hits left-handers reasonably well for a guy with limited at bats. So you have to take that into account. That's where I think the information comes into play so much more, where you have to really do the deep dive. And this is where players and coaches and managers have that information that we don't have readily available to us, and why they make some of the decisions they do.
And Burleson, it's same story as last year with Alec Burleson. He kind of forced the hand of having to play him every day. He starts hitting, he
Hmm.
forces you to play him and find somewhere to put him on the field. And we're seeing that again, to where right now he's a guy that's right there, middle of your order, and you need to give him as many at bats as possible.
Yeah, no, you're right, and especially while he's hot. That home run he hit last night was typical him. That pitch was high, and the one thing he didn't do was drop his hands. He stayed on top of that ball and was able to hit a home run.
The
And just
double,
talking,
or not the double, the one he hit down the line too. I mean, that thing was
yeah, man, that was a rocket, man.
that thing was up and in its face,
I
and
didn't see. I should have looked at the exit velocity on that, man. But if that thing wasn't at 109, 112, somewhere in that vicinity, I mean,
and that was a
you know,
slow pitch softball type
yes,
of
it was, it
single
was.
down the line.
And I was like, the first baseman was lucky that that ball didn't find him.
So yeah, I mean, again, he's a guy that's fun to watch. He carried the offense for the second half of last year, and he looks like that's what he's
He's
back
picking
on
it
right
up
now.
now.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, and you know what? That's how this team kind of shakes out this year. No one person carries this team. There's a couple of guys that'll pick you up. We saw Contreras do it for a while. Burleson's doing it now. Donovan's done it. Even at one point, we saw Victor Scott the second really carrying the bottom of the order and doing some things. So and I guess that's kind of how you want it. I'm kind of the belief, if you get 5 of the 9 bats to show up every night, then you got a chance. When you only have 4 or 3 of them showing up, then it's really harder to do.
Victor Scott the second with a home run last night off of a position player.
Yeah.
Uh,
You know what, man? I just hope that doesn't create a monster here, because Victor Scott, he has this tendency with that swing. He's in the air too much.
mhm.
He too many pop flies compared to line drives, and guy hits a home run off of a position player. All of a sudden, now he thinks, well, maybe I'll start looking for that pitch more. Well, that pitch is not going to be there for you. Okay, this guy's throwing 40 miles an hour, and you just having to jump on one. So you just hope he doesn't start developing bad habits.
This is Cards Central 365 here on STL Sports Central. All of our content brought to you by DraftKings, and we are powered each and every day by our friends over at Gray Bar. And right now, over on at DraftKings, if you download the Pick 6 app and use promo code STL Sports, that's promo code STL Sports, you can get $5. You play $5, get $50 back in Pick 6 credits. Better payouts, bigger wins, only with Pick 6 from DraftKings. The crown is yours.